What's happened is that the IHOPKC people are saying that unless more comes to light, there's not even a reason to spend the money to hire lawyers to come in and do a thorough investigation. It kind of reminds me of the Mueller report. You know, there were these charges that were made up against Donald Trump.
¿Qué tal, mis amigos? Welcome to my channel. Please support your local food bank, drug and alcohol center. We're going to do another update video regarding the sex scandal at IHOP. Please join me in prayer for the victims and the men and women, the advocates behind the scenes. We're going to be looking at this video that just came out one day ago. We're also going to be looking at Nate. Does a great job. He does a great job. We're going to read this article. Now, this just came out. This is Elizabeth, and she posted a really good article, and this is going to take a while to get through, but this right here, really well done. It's actually a long article. I'm going to read it. It gives us some analysis of the report that he's holding the report in his hand. Now, if you're new to my channel, I'm a Christian street outreach worker. Sé habla español. I speak Spanish. I work with the gangs in Mexico. I graduated from Bible college in Mexico, and I'm a street outreach worker. On my free time, I make YouTube videos, social media videos, and today we're going to be breaking down what he said in this.
Of the standard they need to leave, and that can be everything from being abusive to their employees. And listen, I've seen some Christian leaders that are just tyrants behind the scenes and how they treat their staff and everything else. Mike Bickle was never like that, and he's really not even being charged with that. But then there's also been long-term affairs. I attended a church for a decade, and we knew that something was wrong, and finally we left the church, and later it was found out that the pastor had a 4-year affair with someone in the church. And I would have never suspected this man to be like that. Very, very left the church, and later it was found out that the pastor had a 4-year affair with someone in the church.
Forgive me, let's back this up.
And I would have never suspected this man.
He's talking about a man in the church with a 4-year affair. Oh, by the way, we might as well read that really quick. This is a report that just came out. Whistleblower fires back. This is Dwayne Roberts' statement. He said, victim number 2, the case includes a relationship between a 42-year-old international renowned minister. Can you see that? Renowned minister, and a 19-year-old relationship that began with a prophetic manipulation and became a 4-year sexual relationship that lasted in the early years of IHOP. All right, this is victim number 2. 4-year sexual relationship. He's holding the report in his hand, and the leadership actually sent him this report to read. So we're going to look at that. So let's back this up.
Of the standard they need to leave. And that can be everything from being abusive to their employees. And listen, I've seen some Christian leaders that are just tyrants behind the scenes and how they treat their staff and everything else. Mike Bickle was never like that, and he's really not even being charged with that. But then there's also been long-term affairs. I attended a church for a decade, and we knew that something was wrong, and finally we left the church, and later it was found out that the pastor had a 4-year affair with someone in the church. And I would have never suspected this man to be like that.
All right, so he's talking about a different church, that he was quite disgusted with a man that had a 4-year affair. He's not talking about, what was sent to me is that, well, let's keep going. Now he's going to talk about 11 minutes in.
Some who've left have some kind of offense.
Okay, so his position is that this is a nothing burger and that they shouldn't even investigate it anymore or spend the money for more lawyers, was a direct quote. We'll listen to that in a second.
I say this based on what they've done and what other people are saying about them. In fact, I have a friend who is kind of a IHOPKC insider. And in fact, he's the one who sent me the statement earlier today.
He was the one that first got the statement. He's been given it to go onto Charisma Magazine to read the statement directly from IHOP. He still has not posted regarding Alan Hood and the survivor that he's walking with. Let me back that up. I'm sorry.
What they've done and what other people are saying about them. In fact, I have a friend who is kind of a IHOPKC insider, and in fact, he's the one who sent me the statement earlier today. It is a public statement, but he's the one who sent it, and then he sent me what he posted on X, which is the new name for Twitter, but. And I just thought a couple of things. His post on X said, it's not just about being right that matters, it's how we are right that matters, to reflect the character of Christ in all matters in our thoughts and actions. And I thought that that was well said, but in a personal text to me, he said, he said that there are weapons of mass emotion that are used to control a narrative and implant beliefs, whether true or false. Memories can be manipulated. Woundedness not dealt with desires another person to feel pain. Now, I have not talked to Mike Bickle or anyone in his family. I did send a little email telling him that I was praying for him and offering to talk to him, but he has not responded. And I'm just concerned because it appears that some wounded leaders apparently had it in for Mike for some reason.
All right, so we're going to keep going. The narrative that he's spinning right now directly from the leadership of IHOP, and that's why somebody actually sent me a text, a friend of mine, that Mike Bickle has been exonerated. They just watched... this man on social media just came out a day ago saying that the charges, well, let's keep going.
It says that the complaint group did bring a pre-prepared list of demands to prevent escalating levels of disclosure. I'm not sure what that means. And the demands and threats, which included dictating the use of IHOPKC's funds, and it generated an atmosphere of concern regarding the true objectives of the complaint group. Now, IHOPKC has been given, a lot of donations over the years, even though the staff raises their own support. People give to the ministry. Some very generous donors have given them some land, some land actually that was formerly owned by President Harry Truman's family. It's just very interesting. And when there's a lot of assets, and then sometimes when you have leaders who think that maybe they would be the successors, there's just so many questions. The fact is, I don't know what's going on.
He doesn't know, but what he just said, the narrative that he's spinning right now, is that IHOP gets a lot of donations, a lot of land. Maybe people, the successors, the implication, what I'm understanding, is that they wanted a piece of those donations for the personal benefit. For an example, Dwayne Roberts and Alan Hood. They're just disgruntled, total discredit of anything regarding their concerns with the victims. That's the narrative that he's spinning. Let's keep going.
The second and only detailed allegation is from 26 years ago. It included physical contact between Mike Bickle and an adult woman. It was also insinuated that he may have committed a crime, but IHOPKC has not been able to determine whether this criminal allegation has any credibility. Nevertheless, in the light of the detail provided to IHOPKC, the leadership team asked Mike Bickle to step away from his ministry at the church while the allegations were investigated. Meanwhile, the ministry attorney has reached out to the alleged victim by phone as recently as November 9th without any success. And there's more detail as well. Was identified orally in conversation by a leader.
Back this up, 23.
from 2013 to 18. But the woman issued a prophetic public statement that she was not a victim. Then victim number 4 was identified orally in conversation by a leader of the complaint group. It was an oral, a verbal, spoken charge. Then the next victim released a public statement on her social media.
I think that's important too. I want to include this in the video. So on my video, on all my videos, if you go into the link in the description, you can click April. This is Shiloh. She has a statement posted regarding Catherine. She has deleted it. I am not a victim. April Rose, I'm not a victim. And then of course we have Misty, and this is Misty's public. I am saddened. I have posted this so you can go read these yourself. This is important. We are praying for these women. We're praying for everyone involved. We're after the truth on my channel. Now, we're going to come back to this guy because I don't know where it is here. Let's see what we can see here. He's saying we're not even going to waste some money on, wait a see here. What's going on here? Then we'll do some reading. Why is my computer?
I want to say that I think that Mike has handled this right, being quiet. I think that the
he's reading the report.
Is that if the enemy is going to bring down a ministry, he's got to get rid of the head, and he's got to.
If you don't know what he's talking about, we'll back this up. If you're a new Christian, what he's talking about when he says the enemy wants to take down a ministry, it has to go over the head. The enemy is Satan, all right? The accuser. Peter 5:8-9 says, "Be self-controlled, alert. Your enemy prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him." Forgive me, it's been a while since I've quoted this. Resist him. Stand firm in your faith because you know that your brothers and your sisters around the world are undergoing the same kinds of sufferings. So be self-controlled, alert. Your enemy. So he's equating this whole fiasco as a tool of Satan. And he's reading out to discredit Dwayne Roberts, Alan Hood. We're going to look at all that today as if it's a tool of Satan. That's what he's saying too. And that's why my friend sent me, she deleted this petition, she deleted my videos, and she said that Mike Bickle has been exonerated because of what he has said on the social media. He's presenting the side of the leadership of IHOP. So let's listen to this again.
But I've been trying to report to you what I have gleaned the last few hours. I obviously spent some time researching this. But we have to realize that if the enemy is going to bring down a ministry, he's got to get rid of the head. And he's got to make people question that ministry. I want to say that I think that Mike has handled this right, being quiet. I think that the leadership at IHOPKC has been responsible. If they erred, they needed to err on the side of being overly cautious. But like I said, very, very early, it looked like, especially when that first woman sent out that Facebook post, that we had to have questions. Now, what's happened is that the IHOPKC people are saying that unless more comes to light, there's not even a reason to spend the money to hire lawyers.
All right, so it's a waste of money to even look into this. Could you imagine if you're one of the victims or one of the survivors?
What's happened is that the IHOPKC people are saying that unless more comes to light, there's not even a reason to spend the money to hire lawyers to come in and do a thorough investigation. It kind of reminds me of the Mueller report. You know, there were these charges that were made up against Donald Trump.
It's just made up. He's equating the Mueller report to these men. We're going to keep going, and then I want to read a statement. This is public. Stephen Strang wants you to watch this. That's why we're watching it right now.
And they spent 2 years trying to find something, and at the end of the day, they found absolutely nothing. And, in some cases, especially when it's with one leader, either he did it or he didn't do it. With the Southern Baptist Convention, there was, and even in the Roman Catholic Church, sadly, there was kind of a pattern that was kind of covered up and so forth. This isn't the case at all. As far as I know, no one else at IHOPKC has been accused of this. On the other hand, Mike Bickle, who I've known personally, I've been in his home, he's been in my home. One time we were both at a conference in Korea. So, I've seen him outside the country in lots of settings, had lots of meals with him, been in the prayer room with him. I have never known him to even tell an off-color joke. He has never made an innuendo, ever. I just know him to be a godly man who spends hours and hours and hours in Bible study and prayer. And he's built a great ministry. And I really do believe, this is my personal opinion, and I have a right to my personal opinion, that this is an attack of the enemy. And I think that the investigation needs to continue. But these people who brought the charges, if it turns out to be wrong, if it turns out that they have wrong motives or they're offended in some way, they need to be dealt with whoever their spiritual oversight is, because this is wrong. To assassinate a man's character, it's national news. I do believe that Mike Bickle's reputation will survive this, but there will always be some people who have a question mark about Mike Bickle and IHOP. I'd like to know what you think.
All right.
Be sure to
So he's totally discrediting the pastors and the pastors' families and the victims in this case. And we're going to be looking at those men right now. These are some of the men. We have Dwayne Roberts, Wes Martin, Elizabeth. We're going to be looking at her today, and Alan Hood. Now, full disclaimer, I had a lady say, "You talk funny." I'm a Canadian, eh? It's my Canadian accent, eh? Take off my accent. And she said she can't understand what I'm talking. And the problem is that I have a hard time reading out loud. I struggle with dyslexia, my spelling. In fact, somebody said that I was saying Mick Bickle on all my videos. I didn't even realize that they sent me a screenshot. I looked at it, and sure enough, it said Mick. I just spell things. I don't see things correctly. And even I'm going to do a lot of reading. I'm going to say things or read things wrong. And just have to forgive me. And that's what I'm putting on the screen. All right. This is neat. A beautiful couple. This is Sarah. What happened? And they look like a beautiful couple. And we're one family in Christ Jesus. And she's a mama of 7, book nerd and author. God continues to surprise me. Praise the Lord. We are one family in Christ Jesus. We're going to read this, and then we're going to read the other post. This post is difficult to write, especially in such a way that could possibly make sense to those who haven't spent any time here in Kansas City at IHOP. So if that's you, scroll away, I suppose. Sarah and I have deep compassion for different emotional journeys that happen as new information comes to light. We are local family in all of our different expressions, but for whatever this might be worth, I always keep forgetting if you can hit the like button if you made it this far. More people see my videos, or leave me a comment. We firmly and deeply stand with Dwayne Roberts. Oh boy, what happened? Dwayne Roberts, Wes Martin, Elizabeth, and Alan, and others who have been patiently, heartbrokenly, and kindly advocating behind the scenes on behalf of various women and men. We have been abused, traumatized, who have been abused and traumatized, and in many ways devastated by Mike Bickle. This is their testimony. We all journey of understanding, but Sarah and I have seen things over the past few years that have eliminated any confusion for us about the nature of this abuse. In reality, the danger of allowing it to persist. We have been in small rooms with leadership over various aspects of over multiple years now, and we have lost confidence in the ability of the executive to effectively navigate it. It is so painful to write that to live it. We have loved so deeply these men and women leaders in our community, and we do, as do all of us. We have been quietly working to bring these issues and ones that contributed to culture of hiding sin and covering for Mike, all right, to light, always seeking guidance for scriptural standards, Matthew 18 and 1 Timothy 5. But as recent ELT statements have come forth that do not at all accurately reflect what we know to be true, and furthermore, which have maligned the intentions and care of the thoughtful, humble and godly men and women, we cannot not say something. We know the truth of these matters and have deep friendships and both victims and advocates. All right? I'm going to say that again. We know the truth of these matters. This is their testimony. And have deep friendship with both victims and advocates. This is an excellent article. Lastly, we are raising our voices because there are many important reasons that victims and people like Dwayne, Wes, Elizabeth, and dozen or so leaders and former leaders who are also advocating behind the scenes cannot yet do so. At first, it's because they still believe that this would be handled well by our friends in the LT, but now, very sadly, it is for legal reasons. These things should never have gotten legal. I agree 100%. But here we are, and I suppose I see the significance of small voices speaking what they know and what they have seen. Years ago, Sarah and I left the IHOP community after trying for months to bring to light to a hidden sin that had profound and devastating impacts for the families involved. We watched Mike stymie these efforts to bring to light, and we knew we couldn't continue under his leadership. The mission moved on as these families were destroyed under the covering of Mike's leadership, covering the sin that destroyed them. All right, so here we are. Here we are. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way we fulfill the law of Christ. That's what they're doing right now. Here we are, adding our small voices to say that there is another story, that the one that's being presented to the leadership. We're so grateful for the voices of the ones like Dwayne, Wes, Elizabeth, Alan, Brian, and their spouses. They're just getting bashed right now on social media. And I was thinking about that. Dwayne, Wes, Elizabeth, Alan, and Brian are not professional whistleblowers. Look at this guy's got his picture plastered across the whole entire social media, all over the news. They don't do this for a living, calling out their organization. I got a message. Sorry. All right. Willing to publicly disrupt a ministry with a vision in order that the darkness would be exposed and brought to light. Jesus has no loyalty to a ministry or a prophetic history, but he is near to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. All right. And ultimately, the full justice of everything that's happening right now, put your hope in the Lord, put your confidence in the Lord. God sees everything. He not only judges the actions of man, but he can see the hearts, the motives, and the intentions of the heart. He sees everything. We have a righteous judge that will bring everything out to light. One day, everything will be set straight. But while we're here on earth, God uses men and he uses women, strong men and women, to protect the sheep. All right, last one. I really don't want to read this out loud because it's written, it's hard for me. But Elizabeth has reposted this. So she has been behind the scenes, and she reposted this. So we'll read a bit of it. pounds she was 19. What else don't we know? I don't know this writer, but if you're trying to understand, here we go. She breaks it down. I'll leave a link in the full description. This is very long. And I'm sorry for that. If there is interest, I can release it in a different and perhaps more easily read format. I want to put some kind of analysis out there. IHOP, report of initial finding. IHOP's latest statement and the report of the initial finding is a flippin' train wreck. This is a bit long, so I've divided into sections using double asterisks to hopefully make navigating easier. A whistleblower is different than an advocate, but I tend to couple these two together, whistleblower, advocate, because in this situation there seems to be a tremendous overlap between these two groups. For an example, Dwayne Roberts are whistleblowers, but they represent survivors' interests. I believe there's a group of people working alongside the initial group who are advocating for survivors, like this lady, Elizabeth, is. It's important that we're speaking out, not staying silent. Make our voices heard. I don't know for sure who is in this group. Also, the ELT is a ministry executive team. To be clear, because I don't know who will end up seeing this, I am in neither an above mentioned category. I'm a writer, public theologian, occasional freelance journalist, and social justice worker providing informed analysis for the situation. Throwing shade and casting doubt. Not even waste the money on a proper investigation. Throwing shade and casting doubt. These statements use classic Darvo techniques. Deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. They are casting doubt on credibility of the whistleblowers, advocates, survivors, and alleged against Bickle, and making it seem like IHOP and its leadership are being threatened or harmed in some way. The complaint group. It's important to know that the tone of the initial statement by Diane Roberts, this is a good part of this. Brian Kim and Wes Martin, and the independent statement from Ian Hood was non-threatening. In fact, what we have is the advocates advocating for the victims, asking for a third party. They're protecting the victims and asking for an adjudicator. And then we have IHOP leadership saying, they're putting out these statements. And right in here in Alan Hood, as a former associate of IHOP, I want to speak clearly and firmly. It is imperative that IHOP leadership team investigate these allegations by engaging an independent third-party organization specializing in handling allegations of abuse in context. That's what they're asking for. Conciliatory, not including ultimatums. Yet the ELT consistently characterized the group as whistleblower advocates. Actions are aggressive and subtly cast doubt on their motives by mentioning money. And this guy's mentioning IHOP as property. He's not saying that, but he's saying that. He's spinning the narrative of the property of IHOP as a potential reason why former leaders are speaking out and for the advocates. They made claims consistently with what is the matter of public record and knowledge and have produced nothing to support their account in this matter. They claim that the whistleblower advocates present a list of prepared demands to prevent escalating levels of disclosure, and that's demands and threats, which include dictating the use of IHOP funds, generating an atmosphere of concern regarding true objectives of the complaint group. This is their analysis, interpretation of what the whistleblower advocate is saying, but IHOP has not presented anything supporting this interpretation of the list of demands they're demanding. It is okay for people to make demand. Is it okay for me? I do not know what included the whistleblower's documents given to the LT. Still, it wouldn't be appropriate for the group representing survivors to ask the institution to meet specific guidelines for, ameliorating ameliorating the situation and the list accountable steps doing so. Ameliorating. That the survivor's advocate felt need to include a list of demands. I am assuming that the part of the ELT statement is factual, showing that the survivor advocate believed that the IHOP would not handle the allegations. Why? Well, based on other related complaints, the allegations that have come forth about IHOP, it's fair to assume the IHOP leadership is not accepting a satisfactory and ethical handling abuse allegations against their leaders and staff. As a justice advocate, it is reasonable and right for survivors, whistleblowers, to ask for readiness of their grievances for them to specifically how to believe things should be handled. I make the assertion based on the testimony from people who have previously attempted to file unrelated allegations with IHOP leadership and what we have seen from the leadership team thus far. From a tactical standpoint, I think it might have been premature to state that the group advocating for survivors would engage in escalating levels of disclosure in their request was not honored. However, it is responsible for the group to make such assertions. Probably the group made it clear that would go public that they knew the institution failed to act with due diligence. That's interesting. This is essentially a nuclear option. They were conflicted that IHOP leadership would take any substantive action address allegations. They were concerned that the allegations would be mishandled. They had enough of the kind information that would force IHOP to do the right thing. Remember, they're going against the leader of this, international minister. They have enough of the kind of information that would force IHOP to do the right thing. Requests met and if and or happened. This isn't their first rodeo with the leadership team, and they felt that they had no recourse to prevent a nuclear option out of the gate. Interesting. Investigation in order to decide whether the conduct of investigation. Let me state emphatically that it is not IHOP's duty, nor was it the right move from a technical standpoint for the organization to conduct its own investigation, inquire, or whether they want to call it to evaluate the strength and credibility of the allegations. This is literally the job of an organization like Grace or Guidepoints. Hiring a lawyer, they seem to be making a big deal, is a national law firm, which doesn't mean anything, to be honest. To conduct this type of investigation is problematic for several reasons. There are a lot of folk who have written to say why this is an issue, but I will, oh boy, top line a few of the problems here. First, not all law firms are equipped to handle this type of investigation needed in the kind of situation, nor any law firm equipped to investigate in ways that's sensitive to survivors and a full awareness. They need professionals. Second, an obligation retains legal counsel. The lawyers have a fiduciary responsibility to serve the client's interests, not a victim's. Fiduciary. Third, any investigation process is inherently opaque unless the organization waits attorney. I grew up on the streets, right? I'm not stupid, I speak Spanish, but I'm learning the fancy words. In IHOP cares about survivors like they do, then the first call should be to Grace, not a law firm. Organizations like Grace and Guidepoints have lawyers who work with them and could help not only that, like the care, the counseling, a safe environment, access and mediate a third party. That's what we need. They should always ask Grace to mediate for them, to help find the mediator, to lower the temperature between the group and the whistleblowers. All right, let's get to the truth. And the leadership team, so that they could conduct a sensitive and transparent investigation that honors survivors' concerns. Praise the Lord. It was extraordinarily irresponsible of IHOP to conduct a preliminary investigation. They haven't even talked to all the women. They haven't even talked to the women yet. All right? And then they release its findings. It poses a severe conflict of interest for the organization to effectively investigate itself and find whether the allegations are credible. There's no checks and balances. If IHOP was done to make this even harder survivor, all IHOP has done has made it even harder for the survivors to come forward. No kidding. Who wants to get involved with this? They'll get on the Stephen Strang show or any of the other people that have come on defending Mike. They'll be called an evil spirit and the accusations, Satan's accuser. And that's where we're at. There's a whole entire. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it. There's definitely two sides to this. That's for sure. IHOP said in a statement from ELT that they couldn't work with Grace because Bowles, we're going to call him Mr. T, all right, have been retained as legal counsel. This guy's been a shining light. If you don't know who this guy is, I have a way you can contact him. Where's my Mike Bickle Vindicated whistleblower fires back? And all of my ones it has here, right at the very top. For anyone who's a victim of IHOP, this guy is a shining light. Mr. Bowles, about bio. That's such a great picture. We're going to call him Mr. T, all right? Because I can't pronounce his name. He's an experienced litigator and handled hundreds of civil and criminal cases. Mr. Bowles, all right? And he's been in the news. Oh, Father, I'm praying. Join me in prayer. We're praying for everyone involved with this situation. The people of IHOP, everyone. All right? And I think that's just such a great picture of this guy. It's just like, with all this dark and doom and gloom and accusations and dismissals and the accuser and unbelievable. There's a shining light. Mr. T has been retained as legal counsel, at least to one of the survivors. All right, that's interesting. It is true that Mr. T represents one of the survivors and the founding and a board member of Grace. So if you've been impacted by this, if you're one of the victims, or if you have information, phone Mr. T. He'll listen to you. All right. However, the ELT statement fails to connect the dots. They wait 2 weeks. Listen to this. This is interesting too. She broke this down. This is a great point. The ELT statement fails to connect the dots. They waited 2 whole weeks to contact Grace. Why is that? They should have been one of their first calls to a third party. It's possible, though unlikely, that the survivor had already retained Mr. T before the ELT learned of the allegations October 4th, and that Grace might not have been able to get involved from the start. October 29th, the ELT stated that they had retained a third-party investigator, Stinson. It took them no less than 5 days to lawyer up, but 2 weeks to contact the organizations that prioritize, and you can see their position. The initial findings. The IHOP report. The first alleged victim is listed as unable to verify. The second is listed partial credibility. The other 4 are listed as refuted, which indicate that the woman refuted the claim is also applies to the claim that these women are victims was also disproven. Once again, it's not the IHOP's purview, nor is it appropriate, especially since a statement from them and not from their newly retained legal counsel or from former legal counsel, to establish the credibility of the victims, nor to refute or disprove whether the certain people are indeed victims. Oh boy, the nebulous 6. It's interesting. IHOP says the 6th woman came forward. Then she heard that her name had been attached to the allegations. Her name wasn't mentioned in the initial meeting with the whistleblower advocates. The report doesn't establish whether the woman's name or initials appear in the whistleblower document. It's unclear. I was thinking about that too. Is this a 9th woman or is this part of the 8? I don't know. IHOP says that she is the 6th woman whose name is merged. IHOP says that she's the 5th woman to refute she's an alleged victim. The report doesn't tell us this woman's name emerged, nor do they establish how this woman came in the knowledge of her name being conjunction with the allegations. The complaint group. The complaint group is incendiary, especially when coupled with certain statements that cast doubt on the whistleblower. Motivates. It applies these people are just complaining. There's little to no substance to what's being said. More Narbio. IHOP leadership seems to use the so-called report. It is a soft launch, their own vague allegations against the complaint group, but making broader claims they no support evidence. Again, this Dario tactic. What happened? They are also trying to discredit the allegation by setting up their own ambiguous and problematic standards from evaluating the veracity. This lady's got some fancy words in this one of the claim. Another Darvio tactic. The standards they've established so far, making permission, disclosure as credibility, lack of evidence, public denial, private denial. I will highlight each of them. Oh boy. Asking permission. This is the thorniest of all the standards, so I want to tackle this first. IHOP leadership has used claims from 4 of the 6 alleged victims, highlighting their report. They didn't give the whistleblowers permission to use their names in making allegations against Bickle. The women also claim that they are not victims. I want to establish right off the bat that I am not evaluating if and whether that these women have said is true, because whether these revelations are true or not has no impact on the issue of asking permission. Here's my argument is about the implications of claims that are not their substance. The initial findings say that the complaint group used women's name and initial in claiming that they were victims without permission. The report used this to cast doubt on the allegations and the motives of the complaint group. The problem with the standard is threefold. First, the whistleblower didn't necessarily need victims' permission to name them as such. It's important that, this is interesting, that a whistleblower or another victim might also be direct witnesses or have direct knowledge of a situation that wouldn't be consistently hearsay, making it appropriate for them to name someone in the course of making allegations. That's why they're third party, all right? Do you see that? They're a whistleblower. There are many ways and reasons the specific name might have been mentioned, and none of these reasons have to be the result of fabrication. Second, the standard overlooks the possibility role of spiritual abuse on its own, or spiritual abuse complied with sexual misconduct. Someone could make an outcry against an abuser and then be coerced into denying that they said through spiritual abuse tactics. Again, I'm not saying this is happening in this situation, but I'm saying that it doesn't seem that IHOP investigation accounts for this possibility of their handling of this statements from these women. Third, their statement also ignores the possibility of credibility of witnesses or victims recanting due to some form of witness tampering. And that could include threats, bribery, and even spiritual abuse. Again, IHOP leadership doesn't seem to be showing enough curiosity or thoroughness in handling these statements. It's irresponsible for them to state that the claims have been refuted. Additionally, the claims aren't refuted, they are disputed. There are two different things between two different sets of implication. Disclosure of credibility. IHOP leadership is conflating disclosure and credibility. Essentially, they are set the standard that they cannot even begin to entertain allegations that are allegations lack credibility until they know the names of the people making it. This is not true. Jane Doe allegations are commonly and legal practice when it comes to making abuse allegations. This is why having an independent investigation is so important, why we should have been IHOP's go-to move from the first place. It is literally the job of the independent investigation to establish the credibility of the abuse claimants, and also to do so while protecting the survivors' identities. All right? All right? It's the investigation, the third-party investigation's responsibility. The women making the allegations don't owe IHOP or Mike Bickle disclosure who they are. Lack of evidence. IHOP's findings note a lack of evidence, as if it somehow refutes the truthfulness of the allegations or says anything that would hurt the credibility of the whistleblowers. It isn't the whistleblower's job to supply evidence. See, this is, if you were to take anything away from this hit me, because I was like, oh, of course, they're a whistleblower. It's the job of the third-party investigation. It isn't the whistleblower's job to supply evidence. We're talking about clergy's power, clergy mishandling inside of a position of power, long-standing. That's what the whistleblowers say. Hey, there's something going on. We need an investigation. Once again, this is what an independent investigation collection. This is what the independent investigation does: collect evidence. They need to have investigators. Additionally, if you love Mike Bickle, if you love IHOP, you need somebody to look into this. Additionally, it would be unwise for the whistleblower to handle over evidence to IHOP. That's interesting too. Without establishing parameters or agreements for the IHOP would engage with the evidence. Whistleblowers or victims could be vulnerable to harassment. Vulnerable to harassment. Think about it. You got all these men with these humongous platforms saying that the allegations are from Satan. Think about it. So much more. Wow. Or other intended or unharmed harm. Public and private denials. The initial findings make mention of several public and private denials from women who say that they aren't victims. These denials are used in the same way that they're asking permission, and used to come with all the same conclusions. If IHOP leadership was if IHOP leadership was concerned about the abuse survivors, and they claim to be, and if they were really treating the allegations as credible, they would not have behaved so defensively. They would do what they could to work with people advocating for the survivors, including hiring an independent investigation to help uncover the truth. Their prevailing previous statements and this new report establish that IHOP is working in what the leadership perceived to be Institute's best interest. The report and initial findings is weak and unnecessarily combative document that lacks objectivity, thoroughness, analytical thought. It is not survivor-centered, nor does it try to be. This report was completely unnecessary and does nothing except muddy the waters and cast even more doubt on the investigation process. That's what this guy was saying too. He's like, where's his statements? That's exactly what this guy said. Where is it? It is not the role for IHOP. I'm done with this video. This is a long video. It is not the role of IHOP to establish the credibility of the allegations. That's exactly why investigation engages third-party investigation. Without a legitimate independent investigation, these issues will continue. No kidding. All right, done with this video. I hope the whistleblowers and the advocates will speak out and bring clarity where there is confusion. I hope that there will be a thorough, credible, independent investigation that their findings will be public released. Whew, I feel like I just had a workout in the gym. That's a lot of reading for me. I'm getting better. Like, I remember some of my videos 5 years ago, and I would be because I would be watching my videos. I'd be like, this is terrible. Like, and people would be commenting, you're not even reading it right. And I'd be like, oh yeah, sorry. So there it is. Thank you for everyone who is liking my videos. Please join me in prayer. I am so late today. It's 9 a.m. Usually I'm out at 6 a.m. But I think this is very important that I'm doing this. And just like, I'll end with this final thought is that This is my best friend on the street. This is Mike. I love Mike very much. And his mom has leukemia. And, you know, he's a Christian brother. You know, he was on a Christian snowboarder outreach team, broke his back in an accident and got onto opiates. And he struggles with homelessness. I was with him a few days ago, November 15th. And, you know, I see the value of spending all day going into a back alley, finding somebody that's smoking crack, crystal meth. You know, I did a memorial with Danny. I was with him the day he died. And I held the memorial in that court. There's 25 signatures and notes to his family. And he's a Christian brother as well. That's the ambulance. The point of saying is that my ministry has been focused for 5 years on one. I'll wait all day long, find somebody in a back alley eating out of a dumpster with a syringe hanging over their arm, strung out on drugs. And I'll minister to that one. And my online ministry, what I'm making these videos right now, it's not popular calling out false teachers, but I do it out of love. And, you know, I'm standing up. Many people, just the fact what I'm saying about Stephen Strange will just be, oh, they'd be so angry at me. But I do it out of a passion of love. And I also do it out of a passion that if one person is encouraged, one, just like my street ministry is encouraged, I have done my job. I have done my job. And I'm done with this video. I'll continue to give you updates. Thank you for everybody who's watching. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'm going to post this today. And so may the Lord bless you, keep you strong in the faith, and always remember, Brother John loves you. Bye.